Hello, my dear friends. Welcome to our special session on the Neuroscience of English, Hack Your Brain to Speak. I'm Hania, and today I am thrilled to take you on a fascinating journey where we explore how our brain works when we learn and speak English. Now, I know that sometimes the word neuroscience might sound a little intimidating. It's just a fancy way of saying the study of the brain and how it works. And when we talk about hacking our brain, we really mean discovering simple tricks to help our mind learn and communicate better. So, sit back, relax, and let's dive into this amazing topic together. Imagine your brain as a huge library filled with countless books and notes, each representing a thought, a memory, or a piece of knowledge. Every time you learn a new word in English or practice speaking, it's like you're writing a new chapter in that library. But how do these pages get written? That's where the wonders of neuroscience come in. Neuroscience helps us understand that our brain is not a fixed machine. It is flexible, always growing and changing with every experience you have, a quality we call neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity means that our brain has the amazing ability to rewire itself, creating new connections and pathways every time we learn something new. Let me share a little story from my own life. When I first started learning English, I felt overwhelmed by all the new sounds, words, and expressions. I remember sitting in my room, feeling like my brain was a jumbled mess of letters and sounds. But then I discovered something that changed everything for me. I started to use simple techniques, like repeating phrases out loud in a fun rhythm or listening to my favorite songs in English. Little by little, my brain began to organize that information, creating a neat little system that made learning English not only possible, but also exciting. It was as if my brain started to write its own manual on how to speak with confidence. Now, you might be wondering, Hania, how exactly can we hack our brain to speak better English? Well, let's explore that together. Our brains are incredibly smart, but sometimes they need a little help to perform at their best. One of the key things we can do is to create a comfortable and relaxed environment for learning. When you feel relaxed, your brain is more open to absorbing new information. Think about how you feel when you are sitting in a cozy cafe with a warm cup of tea. The gentle hum of conversation in the background and the soft lighting all work together to make you feel at ease. That same sense of comfort helps your brain focus and learn. Now, let's talk about something really interesting, the role of repetition in learning English. You see, when we repeat a word or a sentence many times, our brain begins to create a stronger connection, like laying down tracks for a train. The more frequently you use a new word, the more firmly it becomes part of your language library. And here's a fun tip. Try saying your favorite tongue twisters in English. It might sound silly at first, but by repeating those challenging phrases, your brain starts to work harder to coordinate the sounds, and before you know it, you're speaking with more clarity and confidence. Let's take an example. There's a well-known tongue twister. She sells seashells by the seashore. When you repeat this slowly at first, your brain is busy figuring out the patterns of sound and rhythm. Over time, as you repeat it more, your brain begins to store those patterns, and it becomes easier to say not just that phrase, but to apply similar patterns in everyday conversation. It's almost like your brain is doing a little workout, just like your muscles do at the gym. And trust me, the benefits are amazing. Speaking of workouts, our brains need rest too. Just as we need to sleep after a hard day of physical exercise, our brain needs downtime to process all the information we've taken in. This is why taking short breaks during study sessions is so important. During these breaks, your brain can relax and solidify the new connections it has made. Imagine you are learning a new recipe. If you rush through it without taking a moment to understand each step, you might end up with a jumbled mess instead of a delicious meal. Similarly, by giving your brain some breathing room, you allow it to digest the new language information and make it easier to recall later. Now, let's move on to the concept of emotional engagement in learning. It might sound a bit technical, but it's actually very simple. Emotional engagement means that when you feel a connection with what you're learning, your brain holds on to that information much more strongly. For example, think about a time when you learned something new because it was tied to a strong emotion, a funny story, a touching moment, or even a surprising fact. The emotions you feel in those moments act like glue, helping you remember the lesson much better than if you had just read the information in a textbook. So, next time you study English, try to connect it with your own experiences or feelings. Maybe sing along to a song that makes you happy, or tell a funny story in English with your friends. These experiences make the language come alive and make it much easier for your brain to store and retrieve the information later. Let's explore another fascinating aspect of the neuroscience of language, the idea of multisensory learning. Our brains are designed to learn better when more than one sense is involved. For instance, if you only listen to a new word, your brain might not store it as effectively as when you also see the word written down. Write it yourself and say it out loud. Combining different sensory inputs creates a richer, more robust memory. I like to think of it as painting a picture in your mind. The more colors and details you add, the clearer and more vivid the picture becomes. So, when you're trying to learn English, try to engage as many senses as you can. Watch movies or videos with subtitles, write down new words in a notebook, and try to use them in sentences. By doing this, you're giving your brain multiple clues to remember what you've learned. Now, let's talk about the role of curiosity. Curiosity is like a spark that lights up the brain's learning engine. When you are genuinely curious about something, your brain releases chemicals that make learning feel rewarding. It's like your brain is saying, "Wow, this is interesting," and that feeling encourages you to keep exploring and learning more. So, always ask questions and follow your curiosity when it comes to English. If you come across a word or phrase you don't understand, take a moment to explore its meaning in a way that feels natural to you. Perhaps you can find a simple explanation in a story, or think of a situation where that word might be used. The key is to let your natural curiosity guide you, rather than getting frustrated by the complexity of the language. I also want to share a bit about the importance of social learning. Have you ever noticed how much easier it is to learn something new when you do it with a friend or a group? Our brains are social creatures, and we learn best when we interact with others. In fact, studies have shown that when you practice speaking English with others, your brain is more active and engaged than when you study alone. I remember when I first joined an English conversation group, I was a bit shy at first. But as I listened to others share their stories and ideas, I found myself opening up. We would laugh, share funny anecdotes, and sometimes even tell embarrassing stories about our early attempts at speaking. These shared moments made the learning process enjoyable and memorable. So, if you have the chance, find a language buddy or join a conversation group. Not only will you improve your speaking skills, but you'll also make some wonderful friends along the way. Let's take a little detour into the world of brainwaves. Our brain works in different modes, depending on what we're doing. For example, when you're relaxed and daydreaming, your brain produces a certain type of wave that is different from when you're concentrating hard on a complex problem. When learning a language, it's important to be in a state of relaxed focus. This means that if you're too anxious or stressed, your brain might not be able to absorb the new information effectively. One way to achieve this relaxed focus is to start your learning sessions with a short breathing exercise. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, and take a few deep breaths. As you breathe, feel the tension leave your body. This simple practice helps you get into a calm state where your brain is ready to learn. I want to tell you about an experiment I once heard of, one that showed how powerful relaxation can be for learning. In this study, participants were split into two groups. One group was asked to learn new English words immediately, while the other group first spent a few minutes doing a relaxation exercise. At the end of the session, the group that had relaxed before learning remembered significantly more words than the other group. This simple experiment shows that taking a little time to calm your mind can make a big difference in how effectively you learn. And isn't it amazing to think that sometimes the secret to success is just a deep breath away? Now, let's chat about another key idea. Making mistakes is part of the journey. I know it can feel a bit scary to make mistakes, especially when you're learning a new language. But here's the beautiful truth. Every mistake is a stepping stone to improvement. Think of your brain as a sponge. It soaks up water, and sometimes it soaks up a little too much. But that extra water is what helps it grow. When you speak English, every error you make gives your brain a chance to learn and adjust. There's no need to be perfect. Perfection is not the goal. The goal is progress and improvement. I remember when I was first learning, I would get so flustered by mispronouncing words or forgetting a phrase that I would avoid speaking altogether. Over time, I learned to laugh at my mistakes, even share funny stories about them with my friends. These moments of humor made the experience much more enjoyable and took away the fear of making mistakes. Speaking of fun, let me share a lighthearted story from a conversation I once had with a friend. We were practicing English together, and I tried to say a sentence that I had practiced many times. But in my nervousness, I ended up mixing up the words, and instead of saying, "I am excited to learn English," I said, "I am exhausted to learn English." We both burst into laughter, and that laughter helped me relax and try again. Moments like these remind us that language learning isn't a race. It's a delightful journey filled with humorous detours and unexpected turns. Another fascinating aspect of neuroscience that can help us learn English better is the idea of priming. Priming is when exposure to one stimulus influences how you respond to a subsequent stimulus. In simple terms, it means that if you hear or see something related to what you want to learn, your brain is more likely to remember it. For example, if you're about to start a lesson on English idioms, listening to a song that uses those idioms can make your brain more receptive to learning them. It's like warming up before a run. Your brain gets ready to absorb the new information. You can even create your own priming routine. Maybe start your study session with a short, catchy tune or a motivational quote in English that sets the tone for your learning. As we continue our conversation, I want to emphasize the power of storytelling. Our brains are naturally wired to love stories. Stories engage us emotionally and help us remember information more vividly. When you learn English through stories, whether they are personal anecdotes, fables, or even short movies, your brain creates a rich network of associations that makes the language come alive. I remember when I was learning, one of my favorite methods was to watch English movies with subtitles. Not only did I enjoy the plot, but I also started to pick up expressions and new words naturally. It's as if the story was a bridge connecting the unfamiliar with the familiar, helping me navigate the language with ease. Now, let's discuss a slightly technical term in a simple way. Synaptic plasticity. This term refers to the ability of the connections between nerve cells in your brain, called synapses, to change and strengthen over time. When you learn something new, these synapses form new pathways or get stronger, making it easier to recall that information later. In the context of learning English, every conversation, every new word, and every sentence you practice helps to strengthen these pathways. It's like building a network of well-lit streets in a city. Over time, traveling from one place to another becomes smoother and faster. So when you practice speaking, listening, reading, or writing in English, think of it as your brain constructing its own highway system, making future journeys in the language quicker and more efficient. I also want to touch upon the concept of cognitive load. Cognitive load is the amount of mental effort being used in your working memory. Imagine your brain is like a backpack. If you fill it with too many heavy books at once, it becomes hard to carry. In language learning, if you try to learn too many new words or complicated rules all at once, your brain might get overloaded, making it harder to remember anything. The trick is to manage this load by breaking your learning into smaller, more manageable chunks. Instead of trying to memorize a long list of vocabulary in one go, focus on a few words at a time, use them in sentences, and gradually build up your knowledge. This way, your brain can process the information more effectively without feeling overwhelmed. Let's explore how we can make these concepts fun and applicable to your everyday life. One of my favorite activities is to create a language diary. Every day, I write a short paragraph in English about something interesting that happened. It could be as simple as describing the weather or sharing a funny incident. Over time, not only does this practice improve my writing skills, but it also reinforces the new words and expressions I've learned. And here's a fun twist. You can decorate your diary with drawings or doodles that represent the words or emotions you want to remember. This creative activity makes the process enjoyable and taps into the creative side of your brain, which is excellent for learning. Another technique I love is shadowing. This is when you listen to a native speaker, perhaps in a movie, a podcast, or even a speech, and try to mimic their pronunciation, tone, and rhythm exactly as you hear it. It's like dancing along with the music of the language. At first, it might feel a bit awkward, but with practice, it becomes a fun and engaging way to train your ear and your mouth. I remember when I first tried shadowing a famous English speaker, I was amazed at how my pronunciation improved just by imitating their speech. It felt like my brain was unlocking a secret code, and slowly but surely, speaking in English became more natural and fluid. I also want to encourage you to experiment with different ways of learning. Maybe you're more of a visual learner, so watching videos or using flashcards with pictures might work best for you. Or perhaps you learn better by doing, in which case practicing English in real-life situations, like ordering food at a restaurant or chatting with a friend, can be incredibly effective. The key is to discover what works best for you and to enjoy the process. Learning English is not just about memorizing words or grammar rules. It's about immersing yourself in a new way of thinking, experiencing, and connecting with people from around the world. One delightful way to enhance your English learning experience is to set up a mini English corner at home. This can be as simple as decorating a small area with posters, notes, and objects that remind you of the language. For example, you might have a board with your favorite English quotes, a shelf with English books, or even a record player that plays English songs. Every time you spend time in this space, your brain will associate it with learning and creativity. It's like creating your own little classroom where you feel inspired and motivated. I know that sometimes, the journey of learning a new language can feel like a roller coaster, full of ups and downs, moments of triumph, and times of frustration. But remember, every twist and turn is a part of your unique story. Embrace the challenges as opportunities to grow and celebrate the small victories along the way. For instance, when you master a tricky pronunciation or finally understand a complex sentence, take a moment to appreciate that progress. These moments add up, and before you know it, you'll find yourself speaking English with more ease and confidence. Let me share another fun story that really highlights this idea. A few years ago, I was traveling in a foreign country where English wasn't the main language. I was trying to order a simple meal at a local restaurant, but I struggled to find the right words. I ended up using a mix of gestures, broken English, and a lot of laughter. Surprisingly, not only did the staff understand me, but we all shared a moment of genuine connection through humor. That experience taught me that effective communication is not just about perfect grammar or pronunciation. It's about connecting with people, sharing a smile, and embracing the imperfections of the learning process. Another interesting insight from neuroscience is the importance of context in language learning. Our brain loves context because it helps us make sense of new information by linking it to what we already know. When you learn a new word or phrase, try to use it in different situations so that your brain sees how it fits into various scenarios. For example, if you learn the word excited, try to use it when you talk about a fun event, a challenging project, or even a personal achievement, By doing this, you create multiple pathways in your brain to recall the word when you need it. It's like having several keys that can open the same door. This flexibility makes your language skills much stronger and more resilient. Now, let's talk about the power of play in learning English. Our brains are naturally curious and love to explore through play. When we engage in playful activities such as language games, role-playing, or even improvisational storytelling, our brain becomes more active and engaged. I remember a time when a group of friends and I decided to play a game where we had to speak only in English for an entire afternoon. We set up silly challenges, acted out scenes from our favorite movies, and even made up our own stories. Not only did we have a lot of fun, but we also discovered that our ability to express ourselves improved dramatically. The playful environment helped us break down the barriers of fear and hesitation, making speaking English a natural and enjoyable experience. One of the keys to hacking your brain to speak English is to shift your mindset. Instead of viewing language learning as a chore or a test, try to see it as an adventure. Your brain loves new adventures because they stimulate the release of chemicals that make you feel happy and motivated. When you approach learning with a sense of wonder and excitement, you open your mind to new possibilities. Every conversation becomes a chance to explore a new idea. Every new word a treasure waiting to be discovered. And when you share these discoveries with others, you create a positive feedback loop that makes learning even more rewarding. As we near the end of our session, I want to leave you with some heartfelt encouragement. Remember, learning English, or any language, is a journey, not a destination. Your brain is an incredible tool, capable of amazing growth and transformation. By understanding the neuroscience behind language learning, you can adopt strategies that not only make the process easier, but also more enjoyable. Celebrate your progress, embrace your mistakes, and always be curious about the world around you. Before we wrap up, let me remind you of one final insight from neuroscience that ties everything together: the importance of practice. Just as athletes train every day to improve their performance, language learners must practice consistently. Even on days when you feel tired or discouraged, try to spend a few minutes engaging with English, whether it's reading a short article, listening to a podcast, or having a quick chat with a friend. These small, daily practices add up over time, steadily transforming your brain and your abilities. I also want to stress the idea that learning is a social journey. Share your experiences with others, ask for feedback, and be open to making mistakes. Each conversation, each shared laugh, each moment of confusion and clarity is a step forward. And remember, you're not alone in this journey. Many of us are walking this path together, learning from one another and growing along the way. Let's take one more deep breath together. Inhale slowly, hold for a moment, and then exhale fully. Feel the calm that comes with that simple act, and know that every breath you take is a reminder of your strength and potential. With each breath, your brain is primed to absorb new knowledge, ready to build new connections, and eager to unlock the next level of your language skills. As we close today's session, I want you to imagine the incredible possibilities that lie ahead. Picture yourself confidently speaking English in any situation: a business meeting, a friendly chat, or even a public speech. Visualize your brain working smoothly, like a well-oiled machine, connecting ideas effortlessly and expressing your thoughts with clarity and charm. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I hope that today's talk has given you not only some practical tips and fun insights into the neuroscience of learning English, but also the motivation to hack your brain and speak with confidence. Remember, every word you learn, every conversation you have, and every mistake you embrace is a victory on your journey to mastery. Keep nurturing your brain's garden with care, creativity, and a playful spirit. Stay curious, be patient with yourself, and most importantly, enjoy every step of the adventure. I believe in you, and I know that with each passing day, you're becoming more and more fluent, not just in English, but in the beautiful art of communication. Until next time, my dear friends, keep exploring, keep learning, and let your voice be heard. I'm Hania, and I can't wait to join you on our next journey into the amazing world of language and the human brain. Goodbye for now, and may your path be filled with endless discoveries and joy.